My name is Mike.
I'm Lydia.
My wife, Lydia. We have 2 girls, one 6 and one 3. Nev is 6, and she was born with hearing, and Rose is 3, and she was born with moderate hearing loss. So our little adventure started when Rose was born and immediately failed her first hearing screening. And so, of course, we were like, what does that mean? And the first thing they said, 90% or some high percentage always fail their initial hearing screening. It's usually due to fluid right after birth. And so we felt a little bit better about that, but we were still a little nervous. And we went back, I think, a week or so later and got a second one, and she failed again.
She referred. She failed 3 times in the hospital, referred. We went back a week later, failed again, and we went to see the ENT. And that's when he bet me $1 million that she didn't have hearing loss, permanent hearing loss. Everyone says I really need to cash in on that. And then they said to wait a couple weeks and then referred us to an audiologist who was not in our area. We would have to drive.
So we went to an outside audiologist that had an ABR machine, which would actually tell us the fact whether she has hearing loss or not. So it was a very nerve-wracking between then, just think, what are the results? And we kept assuring ourselves, no, I'm sure it'll be fine. They said it would be fine. And we go out there and we have the initial test, and it was very quickly that she said, yes, your daughter has hearing loss. And that's when it started to set in on us and think about, what are the next stages of our life? Like, how dramatic is this? How's it going to affect our child's life? How's it going to affect everyone's life? What do we need to do?
And to be fair, we didn't know anybody that had hearing loss. We didn't know what that really meant. Like, is it correctable? I mean, I had a child I babysat for wore cochlear implants. This is like 25 or 30 years ago. And so I knew that, those things existed, and he's hugely successful, but that was my only frame of reference, is 30-year-old cochlear, or how long have people been getting cochlear implants? I mean, he had to have had a very first version. And that was my only frame of reference.
And we just weren't educated on it. So we just had, all sorts of things were going on in our brain about it. And we just don't know a lot about it. And so their next question to her was, so what is our daughter hearing? And she went over to her machine, her simulation machine, and played us what she hears. And I think it was just at a decibel level. I think it was somewhere around 40 or 50 decibels. And what we heard was a very light whisper with a bunch of muffled sounds.
Intermittent sounds.
And then that was really the turning point to us to start realizing, it was almost a turning point to grieving and having this hearing loss. And just not knowing what to do next. And we knew we were going to do anything it took after that. But we just knew we just felt like, this is going to be this is a huge turning point for our lives, to figure out what our child's going to need to, be raised like any other. We just want her to be a normal child, if whatever normal is. But so we just started. We had to go outside and have a little emotional time. And
had a breakdown in the car.
Yeah.
I think we both got in the car, and we still didn't have enough information, like the words like sensory neural hearing loss are being thrown at you, and then like the cochlea and how the cochlea is functioning, with all these other parts that maybe in biology in high school I remember learning about this stuff, but I certainly...
You're hearing these terms for the first time, and we weren't sure what these terms meant.
And so we had a full meltdown in the car, and then picked ourselves back up. And I was explaining to someone earlier that when we told our families, I felt like that it was really hard, obviously, to let them know that this little peanut that's 6 pounds is going to be wearing hearing aids. And I felt like we kind of had to be like the support for our family too. And then I feel like it was hard for them to understand, again, like, she just needs tubes. She has fluid in her ears. It's no big deal. I have a friend of a friend whose kid, put essential oils in their ear, and they could hear beautifully after that. And I think that for me, there was a little frustration of like, you guys aren't getting this, that this is like permanent. And it, you know, we've been to several doctors now, and we ended up going to several more doctors over time. And Rose has a really complicated medical diagnosis, which we're glad we know, because we can monitor her hearing and her vision and other organs that are involved. But ultimately, she's perfect. She's thriving and happy, and she's 3 and looked at me the other day and said the word otherwise. Otherwise, I have to go to bed. I was like, that is right. You do have to go to bed. So for me, it all kind of, after that, it kind of moving forward, the acceptance takes a little while, and understanding all the components that go with it, not just audiology appointments, but speech therapy and listening and spoken language therapies. Like, we did it all. Like, there wasn't anything we didn't want to do.
Well, there's other things that that Rose has had a lot of other challenges in addition to hearing loss. She was diagnosed with Axenfeld-Rieger syndrome, and that was one of the components, was hearing loss, and the way I believe her bones were formed, and it led to other things, a coloboma of the eye, which
I'm impressed you remember.
I know. She doesn't realize I'm there. I'm listening, and I might not do the same, but she's the big researcher, and I'm there to hear and absorb and do anything that I can as well. But she has a 50% chance of developing glaucoma before she's 10.
Yeah, she has all these kind of little anomalies, but we've skirted catastrophe.
Yes.
On everything. Like, everything could be catastrophic, but we have, for some reason, got so lucky, and we may have all these little bits and pieces to manage, but just like hearing loss, so grateful to everyone, all those smart people out there that have invented hearing aids and BAHAs and cochlear implants and all the technology associated, and the ENTs for figuring out how to do it all, and MRIs and everything. Everything we deal with can be managed, and lots of medicine. And Rose takes a syringe and just pushes it in her mouth all by herself. She's 3, but because of that, she's happy and makes jokes and wants to be funny and
terrorizes the house.
Yeah,
you have to watch her at all costs. She's tearing something off. She's writing on the wall.
Lays on top of the dog.
But you know what? When we see her doing those things, we're so thankful that she. I think we're more thankful than the average parent. So we're like, she's just doing what normal kids do, and that's all. That's all we wanted. Just to make sure she was doing all the wrong things, all the things that normal kids do, whether they were right or wrong. Yeah. But she's doing them, and we're just really happy for it.
Yeah. So. And she loves, like, her speech therapist and, physical therapist and doctors. She tells them where to put the stethoscope, and she kind of bosses them around. And I was saying to one of her speech therapists the other day, I'm like, you are a hugely important person in her life. Like, you've seen her every week since she was, just about 8 weeks old. And I'm like, to Rose, you're like a grandparent. You're really an important person.
The state of Idaho is they've been really good to us as far as being able to send support and all this stuff. And we're not having to pay for most of these things. And so I guess you don't really
toddler program.
Yeah, you don't really think about it until you have something like this. That there is a lot of support out there, whether it's through support groups like the CARE Project or the state or government programs. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it'd be just, and hopefully we can help other people learn about these things. I think that's the important part, because I know there's a lot of people. I was at the Trail Creek Nursery the other day, which is just a nursery, a tree nursery and plant nursery in our town of Victor. And I've never heard of a BAHA. I've never seen a BAHA before. And the guy goes,
well, aside from a year ago, I believe, yes.
Well, aside from a year ago, but I wouldn't know anything. The guy at the nursery goes, oh, how do you like the BAHAs? And I was just so taken back by that. I was like, how would you know? And he was like, both of my daughters wear BAHAs. I was like, I've never seen a BAHA on anybody besides my daughter. And it's surprisingly, our little tiny town, there's someone else. And so what did I do? I was like, I want to reach out to this guy. I want to make sure he's having everything. I'm like, here's my card. My wife's really involved. You need to call me if you have any questions about anything. I just instantly I don't know if he actually even felt like I was like protruding on him. I stayed there at the desk and I was just telling him about Rose.
Whether he liked it or not.
I don't know that he liked it or not, but I literally gave him my business card and I was like, if you guys have any questions about this, we've done a lot of research. We're very involved.
It's just fun to connect with other families.
Yeah. And if there's something that we can do that you might not know, please let us know. And I get excited about that because I feel like we really want to be a part of it. We want to be helpful to other people. And it's
those people though that have made this doable. It is people like you.
That's why we're here today, finding people like you.
Yep, and Marge and Jane, and who have made it possible. Like, I get teary-eyed every time I talk about my fairy godmother Marge, because I couldn't survive without these people. And that's why the CARE Project and the Hearing First community and meeting these friends, this is to me why it's so important, because you can't do this alone, especially if you don't know what you're doing, which is me. I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I've learned a lot. I'm like, and it's because of my friends, and these people are my best friends now, and I would rather go out to dinner with anybody here than anyone else. My friends, if they ever watch this video, might be offended. But no, we're so lucky. We have incredible friends and family and support, but it's a different road, and it can be lonely when you live in a place where there aren't a lot of resources. So I feel so grateful that we get to be here, and as different as everybody's journey is, there are so many commonalities, so many similarities, and that's what makes it so easy to connect with everybody. I just want to go give everyone a hug. They might think I'm crazy.
Well, and most of the people that you see that are actually, make them really reach out to stuff like this are parents that are extremely involved and caring, and they're caring towards other families here to sit around the table and listen to other people's stories. That was emotional enough to just hear everything that everyone's going around with, and a lot of people, in addition to hearing loss, had some other elements into their child, that whether they were sick or something else. But it was tough for us to hear, but it was good for us to hear that there's other people that are out there that either we would love to be able to help, or they are there to help us as well. And I think we're all in the same boat.
We are.